I still remember the morning she told me. She walked into the kitchen holding a small white stick in her hand. Her eyes were wide. Her lips were trembling. And when she said those words, "Daniel, I'm pregnant," I dropped my coffee cup. It shattered on the floor. But I didn't care. I grabbed her. I held her so tight. I laughed and cried at the same time like a fool, like a happy, completely blind fool. That was the best day of my life. Or at least I thought it was. My name is Daniel, and for 3 years I believed I had everything a man could want. A good job, a beautiful home, and Sarah, my wife, the woman I chose above everything else, the woman I trusted with my whole heart. I worked double shifts so she could study. I skipped vacations so we could save money. I gave up friendships, hobbies, and sleep, all for us, all for the life we were building together. And when she told me a baby was coming, I felt like every sacrifice finally made sense. I painted the nursery myself, yellow walls, little stars on the ceiling. I even learned how to build a crib from a YouTube video at 2 in the morning. My hands were clumsy, the instructions made no sense, but I was smiling the whole time. Because I was going to be a father. People would look at us and say, "You two are goals." And I believed them. I never questioned Sarah, not once. She was my person, my safe place, the one person in the world I was sure about. That's the thing about blind trust. It doesn't feel blind when you're living inside it. It just feels like love. And love, I thought, was enough to protect me from everything. I was wrong. Because somewhere behind those smiles, behind those "I love yous" and quiet Sunday mornings, something was already broken. Something I couldn't see. Not yet. But one ordinary Tuesday, my phone buzzed with a message that wasn't meant for my eyes. And just like that coffee cup on the kitchen floor, my perfect life shattered. The message was short. Just 7 words. "Last night was everything. Miss you already." I stared at my phone screen. My eyes read it once, then twice, then a third time, hoping the words would somehow change. They didn't. The name at the top of the message stopped my heart cold. Marcus. My best friend. The man who stood next to me at my wedding. The man I called when my father died. The man who sat at my dinner table, ate my food, laughed at my jokes, and looked me straight in the eyes. I told myself it was a mistake, a wrong number, some kind of misunderstanding. Because that's what a trusting man does. He finds every possible excuse before he accepts the truth. I put the phone down and said nothing. But something inside me had already shifted. I started noticing things I had ignored before. Small things. Things I had explained away 100 times without even realizing it. Sarah stepping outside to take calls, even in the cold. Sarah laughing at her phone and flipping it face down the moment I walked in. Marcus canceling our plans last minute, again and again, always with a perfect excuse. The 3 of us at dinner one evening, and for just 1 second I caught them exchange a glance. Quick, subtle, almost invisible. Almost. One night I couldn't sleep. I sat across from Sarah and tried to speak. My voice came out quiet and broken. "Is everything okay between us?" She looked up from her book, calm, completely calm. She smiled and said, "Daniel, why do you always do this? Why do you look for problems when everything is fine?" And just like that, I felt stupid. She had this way of talking that made me feel like I was the problem, like my gut feeling was just insecurity, like my eyes were lying to me. So I shut down again. I swallowed my doubts, folded them up, buried them deep. I chose her over my own instincts. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever. It breathes, it grows, it waits. And it was already coming for me. Like a storm I never saw building. It was a Thursday night. Sarah said she was visiting her sister. She kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her bag, and walked out the door like everything was completely normal. I watched her leave from the window. Something felt wrong. Something in my chest felt heavy and loud, like an alarm bell I could no longer ignore. So I did something I had never done before. I followed her. I parked down the street and watched. She didn't go to her sister's house. She walked straight into Marcus's apartment building, confident, comfortable, like she had done it 100 times before. Because she had. I sat in that car for 2 hours, completely still. The radio was off. The engine was off. The whole world felt off. When she finally came out, she was laughing. Her head was thrown back. Her hand was touching his arm. She looked free. She looked happy. She looked nothing like the woman who came home to me every night. I drove home in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat at the kitchen table and waited. When Sarah walked in and saw my face, she froze. She knew. I placed my phone on the table between us. The message from Marcus still on the screen. 7 words, still burning. "Where were you tonight, Sarah?" She opened her mouth, closed it. Then, unbelievably, she lifted her chin and said, "You were smothering me, Daniel. You pushed me away." She blamed me. I had worked myself to the bone for this woman. I had built her a home. I had painted nursery walls at midnight. And she sat across from me, carrying a baby, and told me I was the problem. The next morning at work, I discovered the most painful part. People already knew. Colleagues, mutual friends, even Sarah's cousin who smiled at my face every Christmas. They all knew. And nobody, not one single person, had the courage to tell me. I was the last man standing in a room where everyone else already knew the joke. And the joke was me. I went home that night a broken man. But broken things sometimes break open. She came back 3 days later. No apology, no tears, no regret. She came back with a strategy. Sarah sat down, folded her hands, and spoke in that calm, controlled voice she always used when she wanted to win an argument. She said the baby was mine. She said she was certain. She said whatever happened between her and Marcus meant nothing. But this child, our child, needed its father. And for 1 week, desperate moment, I wanted to believe her. Because that's what pain does to a man. It makes him reach for anything that feels like hope, even when that hope is standing right in front of him, lying through her teeth. But something had changed inside me. That trusting, smiling man who painted yellow nursery walls at midnight, he was gone. In his place was someone quieter, colder, someone who had finally decided to stop feeling and start thinking. I made one phone call. I didn't tell Sarah, I didn't tell anyone. I contacted a private clinic and arranged a paternity test, quietly, carefully, like a man defusing a bomb he never expected to find in his own home. The wait was the worst part. 14 days. Every morning I woke up and checked my phone first thing. Every night I stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I moved through my days like a ghost, present in body, completely absent everywhere else. Sarah noticed my silence but misread it as forgiveness. She started cooking my favorite meals. She reached for my hand during movies. She even cried one evening and said she was scared about becoming a mother. I held her. God help me, I held her. Because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. Then on a quiet Wednesday morning, the email arrived. I sat in my car in the parking lot at work. I opened it alone. No one beside me, no hand to hold, just me, my phone, and the truth I had been running from. I read the result once. Then I put my phone face down on the passenger seat. And I sat there for a very long time. The baby was not mine. I had known it was coming. I had prepared myself, told myself I was ready. But nothing in this world prepares a man for that moment. The moment when every single thing he believed about his life turns out to be a carefully constructed lie. I didn't scream, I didn't call her, I didn't drive home and break things. I just sat there as the world moved around me, cars passing, people walking, life continuing, completely unbothered by the fact that mine had just collapsed. And then, something strange happened. Through the pain, through the silence, through the wreckage of everything I thought I was, a small, quiet voice rose up from somewhere deep inside my chest. It didn't say much. It said only 3 words. No more, Daniel. And for the first time in years, I listened to myself. I moved out that same week. No big argument, no dramatic scene. I simply packed 2 bags, picked up my documents, and walked out of the house I had built with my own hands. Sarah watched me from the doorway. She looked surprised, like she had expected me to beg, like she had prepared herself for tears and pleading and another chance to feel powerful over my pain. I gave her nothing. I didn't look back, not once. I rented a small apartment across town, 1 bedroom, thin walls, a radiator that made strange noises at night. It was nothing like the home I had left behind. But it was mine. Those first few weeks were the hardest of my life. I won't pretend otherwise. I would sit on the floor of that empty apartment. No furniture, no television, nothing, just me and 4 walls and a silence so loud it was deafening. I stopped eating properly. I stopped shaving. Some mornings I sat on the edge of my bed for an hour before I could convince myself to stand up. This was rock bottom. Raw, ugly, unglamorous. Nothing like the way they show it in movies. Then one evening my neighbor knocked on my door. An old man, 70-something, sharp eyes behind thick glasses. He introduced himself as George and handed me a plate of food his wife had made. He didn't ask questions, he just sat with me. And somewhere in that quiet, comfortable silence, he said something I have never forgotten. The men who get knocked completely flat, they're the only ones who learn how to stand differently, stronger, straighter, like they finally found their real foundation. He stood up, patted my shoulder, and left. That was it. No long speech, no magic solution. Just one simple truth delivered by a kind old man with thick glasses and a warm plate of food. I sat with those words all night. And somewhere around 3 in the morning, I got up off that floor. I washed my face. I looked in the mirror, really looked, at the tired eyes, the hollow cheeks, the man staring back at me who had given everything to someone who gave nothing back. And I made a decision. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just firmly, quietly, completely. I was done shrinking myself for people who never deserved my size. I was done apologizing for trusting too deeply. I was done letting someone else's betrayal write the rest of my story. That night I slept better than I had in months. Because something had shifted permanently. Rock bottom had finally shown me something I couldn't see from anywhere higher up. It showed me myself. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what I saw. I want to tell you something about rebuilding. It isn't fast, it isn't pretty, and nobody cheers for you while it's happening. You just wake up every single day and choose, quietly, stubbornly, to keep going. One small decision at a time, one sunrise at a time. That is exactly what I did. I started with the basics. I set my alarm early. I made my bed every morning. I cooked real food. I started running not because I wanted to, but because I needed somewhere to put all that anger, all that grief, all that restless, burning energy that had nowhere else to go. Those morning runs saved me. Just me, the empty streets, and the sound of my own breathing, steady, consistent, alive. Slowly, very slowly, I started feeling like myself again. Not the old Daniel who smiled too easily and trusted too blindly. someone newer, sharper, someone who had walked through fire and come out the other side with clear eyes. At work, I stopped just showing up. I started performing. I took on bigger projects. I stayed focused. I let my work speak in a voice louder than my pain ever could. Within 4 months, my manager called me into his office and offered me a promotion I had been overlooking for years. I accepted it without hesitation. Meanwhile, the legal process moved forward quietly and firmly. My lawyer was sharp and prepared. Every document, every record, every truth laid out cleanly on the table. The court ruled in my favor. I walked out of that building feeling lighter than I had in years, not because I had won something, but because the truth had finally, officially, protected me. Then came the news through a mutual friend. Sarah and Marcus were falling apart. Apparently, love built on lies has a very short expiration date. The same man who couldn't wait to steal my wife couldn't handle the reality of actually having her. I felt no satisfaction hearing this. No joy, no revenge. Just a quiet, steady confirmation of something George had once told me. The truth always levels things out, son, always. And then something unexpected happened. I met someone. Her name was Claire. We met at a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning. She reached for the same book I was reading on the shelf beside our table. We both laughed. We talked for 3 hours without noticing the time. She was warm, honest, completely uncomplicated. Being around her felt nothing like walking on eggshells. It felt like breathing. I wasn't ready to fall in love again. I told her that honestly, right from the beginning. She smiled and said, "Good, let's just be real with each other then." And that was enough. For the first time in a very long time. That was more than enough. I looked around at my life one evening and barely recognized it. Same city, same hands, same man. But completely different. The thin-walled apartment now had furniture I had chosen myself, books I was actually reading, a morning routine that belonged entirely to me. No performance, no pretending, no shrinking. Just a man finally standing in his own life, comfortable in every corner of it. I had stopped being the man who was left behind. I had become the man who moved forward. And never looked back. It was a Sunday morning. I was sitting by my window with a cup of coffee. The sun was coming in warm and easy. Claire was humming something soft in the kitchen behind me. The city outside was quiet and slow the way only Sunday mornings can be. My phone buzzed on the table. I looked down at the screen. Sarah. I stared at her name for a long moment. No racing heart, no anger rising in my chest, no old familiar panic. Just stillness. Complete, unshakable stillness. I picked up the phone and answered calmly. Daniel, her voice was different, smaller. The confidence was gone. The control was gone. She sounded tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. She told me Marcus had left, that things were difficult, that she had been doing a lot of thinking, that she was sorry, truly sorry, and that she missed what we had. She paused. Then quietly, almost in a whisper, she asked if there was any chance. Any chance at all. I listened to every word. I didn't interrupt. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't remind her of the nursery I painted or the coffee cup I dropped on the day I thought my life was becoming beautiful. I just listened. And when she finished, I spoke slowly, clearly, without anger and without cruelty. Sarah, I genuinely hope you find peace. I hope that child grows up loved and cared for. I hope your life becomes something good. I paused. But that life, it has nothing to do with me anymore. She said my name once more. I said goodbye. And I ended the call. I put the phone face down on the table, picked up my coffee, and looked back out at the Sunday morning like nothing had happened. Because honestly, nothing had. That chapter was already closed, had been for a long time. She was just the last one to realize it. Claire came and sat beside me. She didn't ask who called. She just rested her head on my shoulder and handed me a piece of toast. I smiled. A real smile, an earned smile. The kind that lives in your chest, not just on your face. And sitting there in that warm, quiet, honest moment, I thought about everything. The man who dropped a coffee cup and called it joy. The man who painted yellow stars at midnight for a dream that was never real. The man who sat alone in a parking lot and read a result that broke his entire world in one sentence. I thought about George and his thick glasses and that warm plate of food. I thought about empty apartments and morning runs and courtrooms and promotions, and a woman who reached for the same book as me on a Tuesday morning. I thought about every single moment that had crushed me. And I realized every single one of them had also built me. So if you are sitting somewhere right now, broken, humiliated, convinced that someone else's betrayal has written the final page of your story, I need you to hear this. It hasn't. The people who deceive you, use you, and leave you flat on the ground. They think they are ending you. They are not. They are just removing themselves from a story that was always bigger than them, always stronger than them. Your rock bottom is not your ending. It is your foundation. And what you build on top of it, nobody can ever take from you. They didn't break me. They just cleared the path to who I was always supposed to become.